Hello and welcome to today's Almost Daily Devotion. We're in Genesis chapter 12. We're going to continue on Abram's journey from being called from one home to another. We're going to start with the fourth verse. It goes like this. Abram left just as the Lord told him, and Lot went with him. Now Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all of their possessions, and those who became members of their household in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. When they arrived in Canaan, Abram traveled through the land as far as the sacred place at Shechem, at the oak of Moreh. The Canaanites lived in the land at the time. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, I give this land to your descendants. So Abram built an altar there to the Lord who appeared to him. From there he traveled toward the mountains east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and worshipped in the Lord's name. Then Abram set out toward the arid southern plain, making and breaking camp as he went. So Abram, when he was called out, didn't just leave his homeland. He changed his entire life. Abram was in the land of Ur, a settled farmer. It sounds like he had a home. He had a household. He had a place that he called home. And when God called him out of that land, called him from his homeland into this new place, Abram became a nomad, a traveler, a man who pitched tents to sleep in and who built altars everywhere he went. It's not just a simple change of location that God is asking from Abram. God is asking Abram to change everything about himself, everything that identified himself, to change his surroundings, his approach, his settledness. Abram would never again find a place to stay for a long period of time. From the time he left his home to when he died, his family was always moving from one place to another. And we can ask a lot of questions about why God found that to be necessary, why God never let Abram rest in a place that became too familiar or too comfortable. Abram did a lot of things that caused a lot of his own problems. Many of his problems were of his own making. But God also didn't let him settle and rest in one place for very long. And how true is that of our journeys in life too? We are often called out from a place of security and safety as people who believe, who follow, who seek to become more and more like Jesus every day. We're often called from a place of comfort and peace and security into a place of movement, of insecurity, of tentedness. We are often, like Abraham, never really at rest. And I believe that is when we are most following God. And now that doesn't sound like a very promising life. Most of us think, I don't want to have to pack up and move all the time. That's true. Packing up and moving is not great. But it's a lot easier if you never unpack in the first place. Abram is always on the move. And God is always on the move. And so it reminds us that God's promises of comfort and peace never come in the settledness, never come in the ways that we expect it, never come in the rootedness of the four walls that we live in. God's comfort and peace come in the valley. God's comfort and peace comes in the wilderness. God's comfort and peace comes in the journey and the rocky places. You see, we don't need God when we build temples of our own. When we build altars of our own, God has already been there and moved on. While we're still stuck while worshiping at the altar and building our houses of sticks and stones. So how do we see God in the midst of journey? And I think that's by not becoming too comfortable. Not allowing ourselves to become too content with what is, and acknowledging that God is in the journey. that when we follow God, we will always be on the move. And that is a good thing.